Hello! Today it looks like we are going to be adding and subtracting decimals. So make sure that you're on your 3.2 video notes page so you can write this all down with me. So right up here at the top it says, what are the rules for adding and subtracting decimals? And it's pretty simple. All we need to remember to do is to line up the decimals. Alright, so add that to your notes page. The rule for adding and subtracting is to line up the decimals. One thing that's going to make our 7th grade decimal lesson a little bit harder than last year is we have to worry about our integer rule. Okay, so I went ahead and wrote that down. Just a brief reminder. I didn't write out the whole thing. But adding integers means we're going to sing that song that we learned. Alright, so let's get started with example 1. It says to add, and then we're going to estimate to check whether our answer is reasonable. Okay, so to get us started, I already wrote it down. I want you to add -5 and 826 thousandths plus 7. Now with the 7, there's no decimal there, but we know that there's always a decimal at the end of a number. We just don't write it. Alright, so since we have integers and it says to sing the song, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So same sign, add and keep, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the higher number, then you'll be exact. Okay, so we need to subtract because our signs are different. Alright, so, and our rule says to line up our decimals. So I'm going to put 7 on top, and I'm going to put the 5 on the bottom. See how I lined up my decimals? Fill in the 8 to 6, but I have a problem because I don't have anything above there. So we use zeros as our placeholders because it doesn't change the value of our 7. Now I'm all lined up and ready to subtract. So we're subtracting and we have all of those zeros. So we're going to have to borrow. So the very last 0 turns into a 10. And I gotta go until I find that whole number. So we borrow from the 7 and it becomes a 6. And then we have a 9, and then the 10 on the end. Alright, subtracting 10 minus 6, 9 minus 2, 9 minus 8, and 6 minus 5. So I have that decimal all lined up. So that's where it goes in our answer. So now that we've subtracted, now we need to keep the sign of the higher number, then we'll be exact. So I see that the 7 is our higher number, so it is a positive 1. Also in the directions it told us to estimate to make sure we were on track, because it's really easy if you don't get your decimals just right to be way, way off. So if I just look at my original problem, I know that this is close to -6 plus 7, and when I have a -6 plus +7, I would have a +1. So that's what I'm going to do to check my answer, is just round them and see if we're close. And +1 is pretty darn close to what we got for our answer. So good work. Now it is your turn to try it on your own. So I need you to follow your integer rules and your decimal rules to add a -5 and 3/10 plus -16 and 45 hundredths. So try that on your own and see if you can do it correctly. How did you do? This is what my workspace looked like. So I have a -21 and 75 hundredths as my final answer, and then when I estimated off to the side, I got -21. So pretty close, and I'm happy with that answer. Now let's try subtraction. Okay, down here for example 2, I have a subtraction problem. -14 minus 4 and 12 hundredths. So since I have that negative and a subtraction problem, I'm going to follow my subtraction rule and keep, change, change. So I'm going to keep the negative 14, change it to addition, and change the 4 to a negative. So the rule for subtraction is to add the opposite. So I'm adding the opposite of positive 4. So I'm good with that. Now I have an addition problem. So same sign, add and keep. So I'm going to actually add these two negatives together and keep the negative. Okay, so don't let me forget to add that on at the end. So we're going to go ahead and add, even though it wasn't a subtraction problem to start. Alright, so again I need to line up those decimals, and remember, even though we don't write it, there is a decimal behind our whole numbers. And then I need a placeholder, so I have something to add to this 1 and the 2. So I go ahead and add up everything, and I end up with an 18 and 12 hundredths. The decimals are all lined up right there, and remember I need to keep the negative, so it is a negative 18 and 12 hundredths. And then to check my answer, you always want to go back to the original question just in case there is something that you messed up on along the way. So negative 14 minus 4 for estimating, keep, change, change, and negative 14 plus negative 4 is negative 18. Whoops, crazy 8. And that's really close to what we got over here. So, good work. Okay, looks like our notes page are filling up, but if you could solve one on your own off to the side, I have a positive 7 and 89 hundredths minus 5 and 9 tenths. So it doesn't look like I'll have to worry about our integer rules on this one, but you do need to make sure you line up your decimals. Okay, so try that one on your own. How did you do? This is the workspace that I have. My exact answer was the 1 and 99 hundredths, and then I checked it off to the side and got 2. So I'm pretty happy with that estimate. Alright, down at the bottom we're going to do a U pick to finish off our video, and I'll get you started with the first part and then I'll have you implement it on your own. So a team of mountain climbers makes a camp 148 hundredths kilometers above, I'm guessing that should be above, right? Sea level. They climb another 2 and 91 hundredths kilometers to the peak. How tall is the mountain? So understand is just restating the question. So pretty much we just want to know how tall is the mountain? Question mark. So strategy. So I'm thinking off to the side here. I'm climbing a mountain. I'm here. This is sea level at 0. So we went up 1.48, and then the next day we climbed another, so the distance up is 2.91. So what is this? The peak is what we're trying to find. So that looks like an addition problem to me. Okay, we are going to add those two numbers together. So on the implement we have 1 and 48 hundredths plus the 2 and 91 hundredths. Okay, go ahead and implement that addition and write me a sentence, please. Okay, here's what my workspace ended up looking like. So I added my decimals by lining them up, ending with 4 and 39 hundredths. My conclusion says the mountain is 4 and 39 hundredths kilometers above sea level. All right, good work.